think the important thing that I want to emphasize is how my engineering education and how the time I spent at the company during my engineering education gave me all of the tools that I've used to this day and the foundation upon which I've been able to build as I needed it. So when I discovered that, you know, I could really use some deeper systems level thinking, I went and got my MBA further on. And the institute that I went to, they have 3 classes of students. They call them the gearheads, that's the engineers, the poets, that's everybody from the arts and sciences, and the accountants, which are a strange breed unto themselves. And you know, the gearheads were the ones that had the easiest time, were able to rapidly ramp up this whole concept of, and develop this skill set and understanding of how to make strategic decisions in the face of uncertainty. The idea of risk is something that you can quantify. Then you can balance risk versus gain and do that type of analysis. You can do Monte Carlo simulations to say what's the probability of each outcome happening. These types of analyses are very comfortable, and as long as you can develop the human skills to go along, be able to put 3 words together in a coherent order, you can do very well. So the message I want to give is that the decision you have made in terms of an engineering degree and the ability to go out, the option that you have to go out into companies and get that experience in companies very early on will stand you in great stead going forward. I'll stop there and we'll watch the next.
No, that's great. I think, you know, one of the things we wanted to talk about, I'll open it up to the rest of the panel. Dean Luzzi talked about, you know, specifically some of the skills that his engineering background has given him to help you, you know, kind of make your way up in your various areas of business. I'll open that up to the rest of the panel. What skills or characteristics acquired during, you know, through an engineering background really best served you? If you could pick one or, you know, 2, best served you as business leaders. Any of you, John.
Okay. I guess one of the things that has helped me is structured thinking and sort of decision making, and that's a skill that you're not just born with that. You may have the talent to do so, but what engineering has really put me through, and you can see why. Those of you who are engineers in the room can appreciate that. You know, there's a level of structure that you bring to yourself in the way of going through the program of structured thinking. That's just natural as an engineer. And when you apply that to decision making and so on, it gives you a level of business decision making that is inherent as an engineer. And that's good and bad, but I certainly feel that in a lot of ways it's actually helped quite a bit. And then just one other topic, I suppose, from a technology perspective, is sort of helps you think a little bit ahead of the future, because the very nature of engineering is to think about what the problem you're trying to solve is. And you extrapolate that over 5–10 years. You start to think about what are the next level of technologies, how do you take what you have today to apply to the next generation, and you apply that same kind of concept and thinking to business. So that's sort of, that's one of the reasons why I think the combination of the two is actually pretty powerful.
I'd reinforce the problem-solving aspects, because I think that you do learn rigorous problem-solving as part of your engineering background. And it's very helpful. For example, I was talking about here is to start thinking a little bit about, well, what would be the next major breakthrough? I mean, what problem would have to be solved in order to advance this field of science? The second thing is that rigorous problem solving leads to a less rigorous problem solving, creative problem solving. Which is, how do you deal with problems for which you have no background? Take dates, but I mean, we double sometimes. How do you deal with more women in the workforce? What does that do to the way in which you treat people? And how do you deal with different racial makeups of the workforce? And how do companies handle this? And how they treat people fairly? How do you get rid of the glass ceilings? That sort of. No one had to experience that. So the real question is, how do you do that? You need to start from a rigorous basis. And from that, you then can become creative. And creative problem solving is where all new things come from.
So you'd say that engineering rigor is what was the foundation.
It's the foundation.
Those
Yeah.
Great. Todd,
And you don't actually think like that, in the sense that you're not thinking in the morning that I'm going to apply my engineering to this today. But it's just the way that you're bred, the way you think, and you come out of the program, the way you apply your engineering skills, just gets you to behave that way, and that's,
It's a greater sense of focus when you're doing something, really.
Yeah, I think it's, for me, I've seen my engineering and other engineers, two things. It's the love of technology. Most of engineering, you're going to be involved in some form of technology these days. And most businesses these days use technology considerably. And I've seen peers of mine really suffer the lack of technology. And I think it's a huge thing. So even if you're a business, no matter what you're doing, having a strong base of technology these days, unless you're working for Kmart or McDonald's, I mean, most not to put them down, but most big firms, you can't really separate the technology from the business anymore, and most new businesses are really do that. So having a really solid foundation has really helped me. Even in my current position, all the other C-level executives, either attorneys or CPAs, and they all have uses, but they call me a propeller, because I just understand that it's fundamental core, and it really does help me, and I've seen it help other people. The other one, and I think I'll steal the Macintosh, the Apple slogan, I think in the billboard 10 years ago or something. It says think different. I think that's really true. When I was, I think 6 or 8 maybe, I was painting, and I saw the guy stirring paint with a stick. I'm like, I just always thought differently. I think, and I think that's the engineering in me. And I'm like, why don't you just attach something to a drill and spin it? And I was 6. 20 years later, I see, I should have patented it, I guess, right? 20 years later, I see Home Depot has these things attached to drills, and you stir the paint that way, 10 times faster. And it's that kind of just thinking differently. And you go into business, and when I was in my current place, I've cut expenses, technology and operating expenses by around half at my current job. And I've always looked at things, I always question, why are we doing it this way? Question everything and try to think differently. I'm maybe to a fault, I'm always trying to solve problems with technology. But usually, if you do think that way, you're constantly challenging every assumption when you go into some place. And how can you optimize? How can you make it better? Where can technology aid? You're going to cut costs and increase productivity. That's really what it's all about. So just really, this love of technology, and this, I don't think you can separate those anymore between business. And just thinking differently, and always try to break things down to its parts, and never accept a way of doing things if it looks inefficient. Never. Always challenge it, and that has really, really helped me. Maybe I shouldn't have, like I said, patent and drill. Too late now, but that's just one example. It's just never accept that.